So this morning I made a video discussing, the coronavirus, the flight in Afghanistan, and in this video, I'm gonna touch on all of that, give the kind of end of day analysis that I personally have, and hopefully answer some questions and provide you some insight. Spent the day, listening to CNBC, knowing what's going on, listening to other analysts, and there's a couple things I wanna talk about. So the first one is oil, right? Oil was hit very hard. A lot of companies like Oasis, which have a lot of debt, were especially hurt very hard. Now, the reason for this is in China, people do a lot of traveling. There's a lot of flights, a lot of planes and everything. And if people aren't going to be traveling because of the coronavirus, which the government has mandated, stay at home and everything, it's going to affect the price of oil, and significantly, especially for companies that are in China doing their own oil and everything. So oil hit very hard. The next is tech. Tech is, kind of been our big growth sector. All these companies, Microsoft, Google, Apple, they've been performing very well. A lot of money has been flowing that way. But on this catalyst, this coronavirus news that's been coming out, this continued spreading of the virus, they all came down a lot. And the funny thing is, a lot of these companies don't really do a lot of business in China. Facebook, for example, isn't really allowed in China. Same thing with Google. Apple does some sales in China. But I'm not going to advise you to make any kind of buy or sell moves on this drop and on this coronavirus thing. I would advise you to listen to the Apple earnings call tomorrow. Apple is going to have an earnings call tomorrow after the market close. Listen to that, see what they're saying about the coronavirus, because they've got two major factories in Wuhan, the city where this disease, or this illness rather, originated. So we want to keep an eye out for that. What is Apple going to do? A lot of these people aren't going to return to work until at least mid-February. A lot of companies are extending that deadline. They're announcing we're not sending our people back, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So for Apple, who produces all of their products in China, two factories of which are in that, central to this virus and this issue city, how is that going to affect Apple? Now, I want to reiterate, I don't view this as a long-term issue. I don't think half the population of China is going to be gone. None of that is going to happen. But it's certainly a catalyst. And the kind of macro way I'm looking at this is we've had a very long, consistent bull run. And we've kind of just hit all the positive news that's out there. We got the US-China trade deal. We got the USMCA. We're going to be working on a deal with Europe now. That could throw some things into the mix. So on a macro level, I see the next 2-3 months being a little bit slower. We've got the coronavirus. We've obviously covered that. The European trade deal is going to come. But something that people aren't talking about is the election. And now personally, I think it's not a question that Trump is going to be reelected. He's posted the numbers. He's got a lot of support and everything. But Bernie Sanders is rising very quickly in the polls. And that is going to throw some people out of whack because we've been, used to seeing Joe Biden. Trump's easily going to be Joe Biden. That's kind of been the idea. But the fact that Bernie Sanders has been picking up a lot of steam is going to throw a monkey wrench into the whole thing. So just like Trump was elected on novel ideas and draining the swamp and these, changing of America philosophy, Bernie Sanders presents something similar to the table to, the left, which is very anti-Trump. So not only is he anti-Trump, but he's anti-Trump action. So he's a complete believer against most of what Trump has done. He wants to, bring back taxes, bring back regulations, all of that. And there's a lot of people in this country who support those ideas. So it's not really being factored into the market. It should be. There should be a little risk in people's minds about the political climate. And in my opinion, it's because it's very early on in the election cycle. And Bernie Sanders obviously hasn't won the nomination yet, and it's possible he might not. But I think we have to keep in mind that there might be some political uncertainty. And that might cause, the market prices to change. So the Afghanistan flight I talked about earlier this morning, there was a lot of uncertainty with that, right? Boeing said their plane got taken down. Somebody else said there was 100 bodies found. It's not a big issue. It's apparently, a military plane that fell down. Whether it was shot down or something like that, we don't know. I guess we're just going to see how that develops. Seems like it could be a non-issue. I obviously had that conspiracy theory about it, and my last conspiracy theory proved to be true. This one, I don't know if it's going to be true. So, coronavirus went as expected. Things are selling. I think on a macroeconomic level, which is kind of where I stand as like a whole, right? I trade Warren Buffett style. I buy and I invest and I ride waves. I don't know if this is a wave that you just completely ride. You got to take a look at your portfolio, see where your China exposure is. If you've got a company that's high multiple and high China exposure, think about trimming down that position. So I already talked to some people who own Nike. I think Nike is a very good position, and I don't like to give individual, I'm going to try and stay away from that, individual stock, opinions. But Nike has a lot of China exposure. They get 20% of their sales from China. That number is supposed to be increasing. A reason why they have that high multiple is because they essentially have access to that entire Chinese market. But with coronavirus happening on Chinese New Year, a very popular shopping season, this could be extending weeks into the future, with people not going out, with companies asking their employees to stay home and not come to work and everything. We could see sales be heavily affected by that. I think the Nike decline could not just be today. I think it could, be in the next couple of weeks and everything. They obviously do a lot of manufacturing in China. So watch out for high multiple China exposed companies and consider trimming those positions for now, and then maybe buying them back in a month or two. Whenever this coronavirus stuff is gone, when we have some more clarity on the election, we have some more clarity on Europe and the new trade deal that Trump has said he's going to work on and get done and possibly impose tariffs on, but hasn't begun the process of yet. So keep those things in mind. Stay smart. Keep looking at what's going on in the world. Hit me up with questions if you got any. I'm going to be posting videos like this regularly, kind of the end of the day market. Just giving you the overview in case you weren't able to, watch CNBC all day, read the news, whatever. This is what I do in my free time. I spend a lot of time just analyzing the market, helping people out, making people money. I'm eventually going to start taking private clients. If you'd like to be part of that, just keep watching, keep, understanding what my point of view is. And if it matches with yours, maybe we can make something happen down the line. So tomorrow I'm going to be listening to that Apple earnings call. I'm going to make a video, highlighting the day, diving deep into that Apple earnings call. That's a huge thing. Particularly interested to see not how iPhone 11 sales do. I think those are strong. I think that's pretty expected. But I want to know how Mac like MacBook Pro, iMac computers, I want to know how those sales are looking, because those are premium computers. Computers need to be upgraded less frequently than iPhones. And if those numbers are stronger than expected, if they just seem very strong, that says a lot about the consumer, because Apple products, specifically the computers, are at the higher end of the market. If people are willing to invest in higher, more expensive computers, that solidifies our understanding that the consumer is strong. So let's look out for those Apple numbers tomorrow, and we'll talk soon.